So if you watch today's lesson until the end, you're going to learn what are the 5 blocks, the 5 internal blocks that are preventing you from learning English and becoming fluent today. Now, this is the thing about these blocks, that they are internal, right? So they are in the last place that we would look, that we would decide to look, which is inside. I like to also see these as mindsets, the way we view the world or the way we think. Now, there's a famous quote that is attributed to Jack Sparrow, the famous pirate from Pirates of the Caribbean, that I don't know in which film he said this, but the quote is, "The problem is not the problem is the way you think about the problem," right? We've said this many times in these lessons, and for a very good reason, because I feel this is directly connected to the reasons why people don't succeed in what they want to do oftentimes, right? So today we're going to have this honest conversation about 5 things that we must change internally. And I include myself in this. So these are really honest, personal reflections of mine. And as I said, I include myself in this challenge that is every day, just like looking at myself, reflecting and thinking whether or not, like, am I really doing these things, or am I falling for the same issues, the same traps over and over again. All right, so let's get started with the first mindset, that is going from the idea of learn and someday live your English, someday fulfill your dreams, do the things you actually want to do in English, going from that to live and learn today. Live today, make the mistakes today, and learn from those mistakes, right? So oftentimes we get into this trap of trying to be too perfect, or the perfectionism trap of just like focusing on learning, focusing on refining your skills, which is important, but we delay practice, right? We delay living it. And it turns out that language is one of those skills that you need real practice, that you need real use in order to develop. It's not theoretical, right? It's practical, or as we like to call it, it's real life English. There's a quote that I think captures this perfectly that goes like this: formal education is a walk through the zoo. Informal learning is a walk through the savannah. The savannah is like where animals like lions and zebras, if you've watched The Lion King, that kind of setting there, that's the savannah. And informal learning is like a safari, right? And you actually get to experience what you want to experience firsthand, like in person. So yeah, lots of people think, I'm going to learn today, I'm going to focus on learning, and then someday I will live. But someday is not a day of the week. Ethan likes to say that, and I think it's a very nice little phrase that you can use to remind yourself that someday isn't a day of the week. So there's no someday, someday I'll do this, someday I'll do that. Why not do today? And if you fail, that's okay, because another interesting insight here is that confidence is not something that you feel today, but you can feel courageous today. And that's all you need to get started, and all you need to actually start to acquire confidence, which will come over time after you have repeated experiences. So live and learn. That's a phrase that natives use to live and learn. It has some interesting connected speech there too, right? Live and learn. That's the first mindset that I think is very important to adopt, not just for English, right, but for life in general. And I myself try to do this whenever I feel like whenever I'm learning something new, or I'm just afraid of experiencing something because I'll fail. Just remind myself, I need to fail fast and already get to practice. So that's where the fun is. That's where that's me leaving the comfort zone as well, which is synonymous with growing, right? The second mindset that I want to talk about is similar to this, and it kind of goes deeper into this idea of not being afraid of making mistakes. That is having a fixed mindset versus having a growth mindset. This comes from behavioral psychology, from science, that says that people who like to think that they are great at something, for example, they oftentimes become complacent and they stop growing because they think they're good, not because they've made effort into developing those skills, but rather because they were born that way. So that's one of the bad things about having a fixed mindset, that you become complacent. And also, if you think that you are bad at something, you also may think that you will be like that forever. And there's no way of growing out of that, of developing. And that's not true. Science, behavioral psychology says that you can actually develop skills. There's no such thing as being bad at English, right? Or actually, you may be bad at a certain moment, but that doesn't mean that you were born bad at English and you'll be that way forever. That's the case for pretty much any skill. So self-talk is an important aspect of this. The way you talk about yourself usually dictates your outcomes, what you will end up having in life. I think the word yet is a powerful one to use here. So you could think like, oh, I can't do this. I cannot do this thing. I cannot speak English confidently, right? Oh, add the word yet at the end, and suddenly you find yourself already believing that you can be. And just that belief alone will make a huge difference, because it's what it will allow you to leave room for growth. Mindsets are beliefs. Mindsets are the stories that we tell ourselves. The stories that we tell ourselves, they are like these self-fulfilling prophecies. So there's an interesting experiment that I've seen a person try, and I thought that made a lot of sense. That is, they grabbed their phones. Now, so if you're just listening, I'm grabbing my phone right now. I'm holding my phone. And if I throw it in the air like this, so if I throw it in the air like this, I'm not dropping it, right? So I just threw it 3 times and I didn't drop it. I was not nervous at all. There's a desk right here. And if it fell, you'd just fall on the desk. But in the experiment, if you take your phone like this and you do the same outside the window, like let's say in a building, like a tall building, and you do the same thing, you throw it in the air, you will feel anxious, right? And you fear dropping it. And just the feeling of the fear and the anxiety will make it more likely for you to drop it. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The fear of dropping it will actually make you drop it. And it's the same thing with the stories that we'll tell ourselves, right? It affects our performance. It affects how we feel. And that's the power of mindsets. It's not just like a thought. It's impacting how you act and what you believe is possible and what you will ultimately end up doing. So this is why this is so important. Ask yourself, what are the stories that you tell ourselves about you, about what you think is possible, about what you believe other people are, what the world is. Investigate your perceptions. All right. Now, before we move on to the next mindset, the third one, I want to ask you something. So you watching this lesson or listening, and it's probably 30, 35 minutes long, maybe even 40 minutes. And have you ever found yourself just like thinking, man, like they're kind of long, right? So like, don't they create shorter lessons, like 5-minute lessons that I can just like in specific opportune moments in my day, just like kind of watch it, practice some vocabulary? Well, yes, because people have asked us that, and we developed exactly this in our app, the RealLife app. So we have micro lessons and chapters that we create out of these longer lessons, and you can learn with them and practice vocabulary with them in just 10 minutes. Have you ever thought about that? Like, it's perfect because like today I'm covering 5 mindsets. So each one of these, we're going to turn them into a micro lesson. It's perfect to make learning English and living your English an everyday habit, because it's not always that you'll have 40, 45 minutes to consume all of this, right? So that's one very good reason to try the app right now. And there's other reasons too. I don't know if you know, at the end of our lessons, we have this extra part that is available only for the app learners. And even in today's lesson, there will be one of these parts. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or any streaming platforms, you notice that at the end, I will say exactly that. Like I can continue watching, consuming this, learning with this on the app. So give it a try right now. It's free to download. The link will be in the description. You can also search for RealLife English on your favorite app store, and we'll continue this lesson from there. All right, so the next mindset is a personal favorite of mine, and I like to call it radical responsibility. It's an easier way for me to kind of remind myself of what this is. It's radical. It's not just responsibility. It's having radical responsibility. So it's kind of extreme in the way we usually view responsibility. And this mindset kind of plays against the idea of playing the victim. Like seeing that others are responsible, you are not. Others are to blame, you are not. And I think, let me read here something that I wrote that I think illustrates this and captures this perfectly. So, own your life. When you commit to taking full responsibility for the circumstances of your life, your physical, emotional, mental, and even spiritual well-being, that's radical responsibility. And you're also committing to supporting others to take full responsibility for their lives. So something that Ethan and I shared in one of our past lessons about habit building was that you don't have to be the victim of your environment, of your circumstances. You can also be the architect of it. So I know the reality of our lives is what it is, right? We were born in a certain family, conditions, city, physically, you may have a certain condition as well. But what are you going to do with that? Like, what if you have your goals, if you have your dreams, your aspirations? I think the first thing that we need to recognize is, okay, what are my options, right? What can I actually do today that will expand my options tomorrow? So there's a concept that is called the circle of influence that explains this really well. So imagine out of all the things that you can be concerned about in your life, we're going to put all of these things in a thing called circle of concern, right? So this is even stuff like the weather or political issues like international politics, wars, and things that it's kind of hard for us to do anything about and to have any impact over. So we're going to put all of these things inside this imaginary circle that is called the circle of concern. Within your circle of concern, you have your circle of influence, which are the things that you actually have some control over or some influence over. And this is, for example, what you do on your day, right? Like what time you get up, what time you go to bed, and the things that you decide to do that will help you improve your health. And by focusing, the idea here is that by focusing on your circle of influence, it grows. So the more energy and time you spend on your circle of influence, the things you have control over, you become more and more powerful or influential, right? This is oftentimes applied to professional contexts as well, right? So people, they complain about their bosses, for example, or the culture of their workplace, and they keep complaining and gossiping and not doing anything about it, which would be changing the way they behave themselves, for example. So they keep doing that, and their circle of concern decreases in size, right? It becomes smaller. They lose power because they're wasting their energy and time. Now, the opposite is true, and there are so many stories that show you exactly that. If you focus on, okay, what can I do? What are the examples that I can set? You become more influential and more powerful, and maybe you even be recognized by others, and you can actually effect change by doing that. So the idea of radical responsibility is associated with the circle of concern. So the idea is that you will be proactive and decide and choose how you want to respond to the things that happen, right? You're not going to be reactive. So this is another interesting thing to keep in mind about being radically responsible. Another issue that I see in regards to responsibility is people saying like, I don't have time, right? I don't have time to do this. So I don't have time to, we're talking about learning English. So I don't have time to cultivate this habit because my life is like A, B, and C, and others may have time. I don't. Well, that may be true that your life is like that, but you are just prioritizing those things because you feel those things are more important, right? So it's about changing the way you talk about it, and then you see whether or not it's true. It's from saying, oh, I don't have time for this, to it's not a priority. But you may be asking yourself, but it is a priority. You know, it is a priority, for example, for me to spend more time with my family. Even though I say I don't have time right, for my kids, but it is a priority. So what's going on? There's a quote from a book called Essentialism that is all about this topic that goes like this. When we forget our ability to choose, we learn to be helpless. Drip by drip, we allow our power to be taken away until we end up becoming a function of other people's choices, or even a function of our own past choices. The word helpless here is interesting, right? Like you give away your power to choose, your ability to choose, and then you feel like, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. That is being helpless or in a state of helplessness. That's what it means. So in order to change this, you gotta own your life and start thinking, okay, what can I do about it? How can I change it? Okay, I can't change it today. Can I change it in a way that in 1 year, my reality will be different, circumstances will be different? Maybe you need to start today. All right, now moving on to the fourth mindset or the fourth story that we tell ourselves. Fixating on the reward versus embracing the process. So I find that, and this is the one I probably struggle with the most, I find that most people, they fixate on the reward too much. Fixate on the goal, on the thing you want, the prize, and we forget that in order to actually get there, we need to do a good job with present time, with the journey. And not just do a good job with it, but sometimes what we are after, what we want in life is the journey. We just don't know it yet. And then when we're finally there at the destination, we're like, oh, well, I missed the process, right? So let me read here a text, something that I wrote to describe this mindset. That was a reflection of mine. So when we wholeheartedly engage with the journey ahead of us, we release ourselves from the constant worry of success or failure. This shift in focus allows us to relish the small victories, learn from setbacks, and savor the present moment. In doing so, we not only reduce anxiety, but also find a deeper sense of fulfillment and purpose in our pursuits. The process itself becomes the end product. Isn't this beautiful? I think in this day and age of AI and super fast technology that can just give us what we want pretty immediately, right? You can order anything you want and it'll be at your address the same day, or you can watch whatever you want to watch, a movie, series, just like, a matter of seconds. So in this era of instant gratification, we need to just learn again how to, as I was saying here, focus on the process so we can relish the small victories, for example. So relish, this word is like to enjoy it, right? To savor it. It's another interesting word here. To savor is like to taste it and to focus on a taste, right? And be like, this tastes so good, right? So savor the present moment, relish, enjoy the small victories, celebrate them. This is also connected to the concept idea of the iceberg, where you have the tip of the iceberg, which is above water, above the surface. And most things we can see from other people's successes, like their activities, their actions, the things they do, those things are not above the surface. They're underneath the surface. So it's the things that you don't get to see because you're not there with them, like to actually witness and experience that. But it's the daily actions, right? It's the daily habits and the things that you don't even think about, like speaking English, for example. So I'm here speaking English, and I'm a non-native, right? So I learned how to do this. And you may see myself, I don't know, like using some advanced words or speaking with a particular accent that you want for yourself too, for example. And you may try and copy me, right? But is that really like what got me here? Like what led me to speaking English like confidently, naturally, just like a feeling comfortable speaking? Or was it just the way I lived my life and I approached learning English as a set of daily habits that just made me who I am? So this is the case for most things that I think matter in life. This is not just learning English, right? It's like that image that I think most people have seen is like the expectation versus reality of the journey. So the expectations are, it's just a straight line from where you are to your goal, right? And maybe a person riding a bicycle expecting it'll be just a straight line. That's your expectation. The reality is it's a whole journey with valleys and this ocean in the middle, right? And a dragon that you will have to kill, and that's it. So we need to embrace that journey and kind of learn to like it, to savor it in its own way. Within this mindset, there's another smaller mindset that I also think about too, and I keep forgetting about these, right? So I remind myself of them. That is being a comfort-oriented person versus cultivating comfort and discomfort. So this is about the idea of willingly stepping out of your comfort zone and learning how to navigate stressful situations. So if you learn how to use the difficulty, to see the obstacle as the way, that's a great start. Because whenever you feel discomfort, you'd be like, oh, okay, so that's a good thing, right? I'm going towards something that will help me grow. And then if you fall in love with the process rather than the product, the destination, you will start to realize it's like, oh, I'm actually going through exactly what I signed up for. And for learning English, since we're talking about it, this is something that I just see people wanting to skip the process, right? I just want to be fluent. But it turns out, as we've already covered in the first couple mindsets of having a growth mindset and pursuing living and learning, it's the experience that will get you there and that will actually help you develop your skills. All right, now let's move on to the next and final mindset. That is, I am another you. I am another person just like you, and you are another person just like me. So when we change our mindset, our understanding of other people, we go from seeing other people as just like supporting actors or maybe even villains of our own story. We change that from that to seeing them as other protagonists of their own stories. Then we can really start to be able to connect more with them and to live in a world where we can actually collaborate and work together. Now, this may sound like it's just like a fluff or unimportant, or maybe some kind of idea that has not much to do with English learning, right? Because as you probably know, our purpose here at RealLife is to create a world beyond borders. So beyond our perception of what the world is like, of what other cultures are like, and just stretching and just like going across these borders to see what it's like over there, and understanding, it's like having that realization that no matter what divides us, humanity, or all of our differences, cultural, geographic, individual, no matter what these differences are, what unites us is far greater. So this is our purpose here. Everything we do, we ask ourselves, like, are we helping our learners and the world get there? So this mindset is not just about that. Even though it could be, right? I could be just promoting that idea because it's a healthy idea. It's important, right? To cultivate this value. But it's also something practical that helps you achieve more in life today. So I'm going to read here my description of this mindset. So I also wrote this. So everyone you meet is going through something you have no idea of. When you truly recognize that other people are the protagonists of their own lives, the same way you are the protagonist of your own, you suddenly gain a superpower, the ability to create stronger connections, build bridges, and solve difficult problems at a more fundamental human level. So see, it's so much easier for me, I can say, to create connections, to start a conversation with any random person when I'm feeling more connected to this value, to this idea, that I really care about them. I don't want to judge them. I just want to learn who they are and what they're going through. And by doing that, maybe I can help a bit. So just connecting with this idea, it gives me already many more ways to help, to create value. If, I don't know, like being rich is something that is a goal of mine, now I can create more valuable solutions and products for the world because I'm more empathic. Right, I listen more. When people say like, "Oh, I don't have opportunities to speak English," right? I can't. It's hard to connect with people and practice my English. Along with, okay, it's difficult to find. It's true, but when people do find, they don't know how to have a great conversation because they don't know how to ask questions. Right? They struggle to connect with the other person really at a more a true level. At a human level. And all we need to remember is that it's like, this person is going through something that I have no idea of what that is. All right, everyone. So if you want to watch the last part of this lesson, including this fifth mindset of I am another you, I shared a ton in it, a few stories, and I played a clip here that I feel is really important for me personally, and I'd love you to see it too. So if you want to watch all of that, you should head to the RealLife app right now, where you have the chance to watch not just the final part of this lesson, but all of our lessons. All of our lessons, we have a last segment that we dedicate especially to our app learners. So I'm going to leave the link in the description below, and you should click on that and it'll take you directly to the lesson on the app. As I said earlier, the app is where you also get to practice the vocabulary that we use in our lessons. They become flashcards, which you can use for practicing so you can remember these words forever, and you can use them when you speak English as well. And you have micro lessons and chapters, and we kind of break down the lessons. As I was explaining earlier, we break down the lessons in smaller bits so you can learn with them in a more realistic way every day. So again, link to the description, and we'll see each other over there.